not enough food or medicine,
or even a place to live. When you live in poverty...
I'm a face of influenza. Health officials now recommend everyone 6 months of age and older get immunized against influenza this and every year. We all are.
This weekend, unplug. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
At-home order. Since then, coronavirus has surged in multiple states. A Senate hearing on safety supplies today.
Currently, PPEs are not being provided in the quantity or quality that is required for nurses to safely provide care for patients.
Ernest Grant, president of the American Nurses Association, among the witnesses disputing the president's claims about supply shortages being solved. An agreement to pull federal officers out of Portland, Oregon, off to a slow start.
As protesters again gathered outside the federal courthouse in Portland, federal law enforcement moved into city streets Wednesday night. This was just hours after Oregon's governor, Kate Brown, said federal law enforcement would be leaving as of Thursday. She called them an occupying force and said state police are going to take over keeping the peace. Homeland Security's acting secretary, Chad Wolf, said no, they would leave once violence against the courthouse and federal personnel stops. Thursday morning, the president tweeted that Governor Brown isn't doing her job, and if she won't clear out anarchists and agitators, as he put it, the federal government will do it. That federal law enforcement is not leaving until there is safety. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
In Chicago, a shootout as officers were leading a carjacking suspect into a police station. Not clear yet where the gun came from, but police say the suspect opened fire and 3 officers were shot. They're all being treated. Police returned fire and shot the suspect.
When they leave home, they leave their loved ones and put these stars on and risk everything. They risk everything, protecting all of us.
Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown. America is listening to Fox News.
Finding the next job is a big job, and that part of what you do is a little tough right now. Because of that, Lowe's for Pros is here to help. Get $400 in leads on us with a free 1-year subscription from HomeAdvisor to connect to jobs that make sense for you. Sign up at lowesforpros.com/proloyalty to get started. Just one more reason why Lowe's is the new home for pros. Now let's get to work. Subscription and $400 lead credit subject to HomeAdvisor's approval and terms. Valid for new HomeAdvisor customers only. Lowe's loyalty required. More terms apply. Valid through 9/9 U.S. only.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dialed text from Pure Talk USA.
Republican leaders in Congress are dismissing any notion of an election day delay.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell told a Kentucky TV station there's never been a federal election not held on time, and that won't change on November 3rd. That was a reaction to a tweet from President Trump suggesting potentially delaying the vote if it can't be held safely without mail-in ballots. Top House Republican Kevin McCarthy says he understands the president's fraud concerns, but
no way should we ever not hold our election on the day that we have it.
Federal law sets Election Day as the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The fight over criminal charges against former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn not over yet. An appeals court now agrees to hear a federal judge's challenge of an order from a panel of the court, which told him to dismiss the case after he raised issues with the Justice Department's motion to toss it out. The appeals court panel finding the judge had overstepped his bounds, but the judge argues the order was premature because he hadn't made a decision. Another event gets COVID canceled, this one an annual fair outside Boston.
A New England tradition that draws about 500,000 people is canceled.
Just couldn't make it work.
Topsail Fair General Manager Jim O'Brien says the 10-day event was set to start October 2nd. It puts more than 200 people to work and attracts 500 vendors from around the nation.
I couldn't feel comfortable that we actually could do it in a safe manner.
It's the first time since World War II the fair is not taking place. Bob Marshall has lived in Topsail for more than 2 decades.
It's the right call. It's disappointing, especially for the kids.
O'Brien says local businesses, churches, and charities are losing out out as well.
We have so many organizations here that are nonprofits that this is their big fundraiser for the year.
O'Brien says he has no excuse but to make the 2021 fair the best ever. CJ Papa, Fox News.
An hour to the close on Wall Street, the Dow's been down over 200 points. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Fort Dodge man has died from injuries he suffered in an accident last week. On July 22nd, 63-year-old Rick Collum was riding a bicycle on Kenyon Road here in Fort Dodge when he was in a collision with a car driven by 34-year-old Fort Dodge resident Joseph Johnson. Collum was flown to a hospital in Des Moines to be treated for his critical injuries. He passed away on Tuesday, according to the Iowa State Patrol. The crash is still being investigated. From Radio Iowa, Republicans in the U.S. Senate are forwarding another incarnation of the CARES Act to the House, which Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says is designed to address continuing problems with the public health crisis. Grassley chairs the Senate Finance Committee and says he was directly involved in several key elements of the COVID-19 pandemic relief legislation.
That includes updated tax relief to help get folks back to work and help businesses safely open, updates in our approach to the unemployment benefits to provide another round of economic impact payments.
That part of the plan provides another round of $1,200 payments for most Americans, with an additional $500 for each dependent. The measure would also lift restrictions on federal assistance that's already been sent to state and local governments, so it can be used to fill revenue shortfalls.
In other words, originally it was just supposed to be used to fight the virus, but if states have money left over, we'll give them flexibility on spending it.
He says the package contains a new credit for expenses, like for personal protective equipment and cleaning, which is needed to maintain a safe workplace for employees and customers. Grassley, a Republican, says the proposal sets a responsible path forward to address the problems our country is facing due to COVID-19.
We put forth a bill. We got to negotiate with the House. I hope my Democrat colleagues will work with us in good faith. They better be open to compromise and keep the best interests of the American people in mind.
The package would help nursing home patients and workers, Grassley says, in addition to freezing Medicare premiums at 2020 levels to head off a predicted spike next year. In sports, Fort Dodge softball is headed to the state championship.
Swung on, hit toward left, Words is under it, that should do it, and that'll do it. Dodgers win 5-3, and they punched that ticket, and for the first time in program history, somebody has uttered the phrase, the Dodgers will play for the state championship.
Dodgers a winner 5-3. Ankeny Centennial would get the first run of the game in the top half of the first. Then the Dodgers would answer when TK Doster would go deep.
Swung on, driven toward right center gap, and that ball is gone. TK Doster, touch them all. He just went yard. 2-run blast, and the Dodgers answer the call.
2-run blast by Doster in the first. Her 8th of the season. Dodgers would then take a 2-1 lead. Ankeny Centennial would answer with 1 in the third to tie it at 2. Dodgers would go up by scoring 1 in the third. They would go up 3-2. Centennial would get 1 in the top half of the 5th and tie the game at 3. Then Martina Lowry would come to the plate for the Dodgers at the bottom half of the 5th.
Swung on, hit toward left center. It's out of here, a home run. A big-time blast. Touch them all, Martina Lowry. You just went yard.
The Dodgers would add an insurance run in the 6th when Martina Lowry would get her second hit of the game, an RBI single, to make the game 5-3. Pitching and defense would carry them the rest of the way. Jalen Adams the win in the circle, complete game, giving up 3 runs, scattering 9 hits, and striking out 3. Adams would set Ankeny Centennial down 1-2-3 in the top half of the 7th to win the game. Dodgers are in the state championship for the first time in program history. A 4:50 pregame and a 5 p.m. first pitch. They'll take on number 2 Cedar Rapids Kennedy for the Big Gold Trophy. Hear every pitch of the state championship game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with highs around 83. Northeasterly winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Lows around 59. Tonight, partly cloudy. Partly cloudy again tomorrow, 84. Mid-80s Saturday with a chance for scattered storms. Much cooler Sunday with highs in the upper 70s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 82.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then, sentences gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. Babbel is created by language experts who use the spaced repetition method to help you learn quickly and remember what you learned. With Babbel, you can speak a new language. Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. It's confession time here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I have a good St. Edmund girl here with me to confess. Do you have anything to confess there, Lydia?
No, but right. I'm a Lutheran, so we don't do that.
You're a Lutheran?
Yeah.
But you went to St. Edmunds, didn't you?
I did, for high school.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, were you a Methodist even when you were in St. Edmund, or?
Nope, I was Lutheran all the way through.
Lutheran?
Still am.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you say Lutheran rather than Methodist?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So didn't want to hang out with those Protestant kids over there?
I guess not. No. No, I have some great friends that are Catholic, but
well, sure, yeah,
not so much me.
Well, that's what Menke did with his children.
Yeah.
I believe he's a Lutheran, or perhaps he's a Satanist. I don't know. By the way, I'm glad you're not with Menke and Fritz in Portland. By the way, I'm pleased.
Hanging out here.
Hanging out here. I went to the city council meeting briefly on Monday. Were you there? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm at the end of the table.
They exiled you.
Yep. Yeah.
Lydia Scher is with the Growth Alliance, and this is the time of week we talk about what's happening at the Growth Alliance, because the Growth Alliance is always trying to do something. This year has been a funny year, of course, because of COVID. We just haven't been able to do a lot of things that we've done in the past. We're really disappointed that this had nothing to do with the Growth Alliance, but I was really disappointed we didn't get to do the Downtown Country Jam and all these other things. We got rid of, unfortunately, Market on Central, didn't we? It's not coming back?
Yeah, well, it'll just be different. We're looking at other ways to do it, because what has been happening is just declined attendance, and people haven't been shopping. They've been coming downtown more for the experience, which is awesome, and we want people downtown. But we just need to adjust how we do it, because if we're going to have people there providing goods, we want them to be, we would like people to be shopping too. So we're just going to kind of adjust how it looks. But COVID did make it pretty impossible to have it at all.
Right.
So.
Was it a mistake to move it from Saturday morning to the evening, do you think?
I don't know. Honestly, so my time with Market was only 2 years, I believe. So it's hard for me to gauge that, because I don't feel like I've had enough experience with it to know.
Nobody kept any research over there as far as the numbers?
There were counts of like how many people would attend each time, and we did track that. It's hard to say because it draws a different crowd too. Like a Thursday night crowd are people who will come down there, like grab a beer, listen to music, get dinner, and the people on Saturdays were more into the shopping aspect of it. So, it was just two different types of crowds, really.
Yeah, there really were. I enjoyed it when it was on Saturday.
Yeah, I liked both. I liked the option of both too. And then you're also looking at volunteers because it's a lot of work to set up and tear down. So
Yes, it is.
we also had to look at what days we could get volunteers, and it's kind of difficult on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. to get someone.
I suppose it is, yeah.
So
I'm in bed, I'll tell you.
I would be too if I wasn't at market. So.
Well, there you go then.
Yeah.
So Liddy Sure is here from the Fort Dodge Growth Alliance. What have we got going this week?
So a few things. We've got one more week of Love Local. That will be Monday.
Okay.
And then hopefully, at some point in the year, it would be great to bring it back. But we do have one more week planned where people can purchase gift cards. And then we are starting a new promotional tool. We're calling it Member Monday. And so each Monday on social media, I will highlight one of our members. And so I put out some emails, but then also we put it in our e-news, which went out yesterday. And it's a chance for businesses to be spotlighted on our, is that even a word? That might not be a word.
Close enough for me. I know what you're
will
talking
be
about.
highlighted on our social media. And
that's a word.
Yeah. Anyone interested in doing it can email me or call the Growth Alliance, and I can get them the info I need. But it's really easy. It's their logo, links to their information, whether it's their website or their social media. And then I've just got 3 quick questions that they can respond back to me with, and then a picture from their business, or if they have a promotional video that they want to share. And the purpose is just to try to get as much attention to them as we can. So we'll do that each week on Mondays.
Each week on Monday?
Yes.
This is a members only thing?
Yep. Member Monday is what we're calling it. So as long as I have people to highlight, I will do so.
Well, bring them in here on Thursday,
Yeah, we actually brought that up too. The people who are on Mondays who do that, to have them come in that same week. So that would be perfect.
We're always, new businesses are always welcome, of
Yes.
course, but, there's no reason why we can't highlight an existing business who's a member of the Growth Alliance.
Right. And especially right now, if it's somebody that's kind of been hit by COVID, or in general.
Everybody's been hit by COVID.
Absolutely. So, and like a small business who maybe people might not know a whole lot about who they are yet, or something. It's just nice to give them a chance to be in the public.
There's all kinds of those little businesses.
Absolutely.
Around there, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
Who was here earlier this year? A couple of young men, they had this great idea. What the heck was it? No, I said this. No, I can't remember. But they were nice guys.
Did they come here with me or differently?
I think they came with you.
Yeah, was that A&H Concrete polishing?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They were polishers, concrete polishers.
Yeah.
Which is real skill.
Yes, absolutely.
I've worked in concrete years ago, and it's one thing to be able to form up concrete for a driveway or something, but to polish it, that is a skill.
Yeah, their workshop is really cool because you can see the type of flooring that they can do, and it's really cool. When we did their ribbon cutting, it was neat to see what they're able to accomplish. I would never have thought it, so it's neat. Who knew?
Well, I hope they're doing well.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm sure they are.
I hope they're doing well, and I hope there is a renewed interest in polished concrete, because you do it right, especially inside of public buildings, county buildings, city buildings. Man, they can really do a great job.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Lydia Sure is here with the Growth Alliance, so we got Member Monday and all of that.
Yes.
Is there anything else happening?
We are still having our golf outing. We just pushed it back. Yep. Normally it would be in August, but we pushed it back to September. So it's September 3rd. And that is at the Country Club as usual. There are just a few changes. We normally, after the golf outing, had a meal more like heavy appetizers, and had a social hour. But we are not doing that this year because of COVID. So
bummer. The social hour is what makes it worth going to. Come on.
Hopefully not the only reason people go.
I don't think it is most of them.
But yes, so still providing the meal ahead of time, which is more of a grab and go meal, which is much easier to do during COVID. And then the golf outing, and after that, no fun social hour, but
What you just throw us out. Huh?
Yep,
you're
done.
Everybody out.
Kicked everybody out.
Did you have fun? Now get out. All right,
Yeah.
Lydia. See how you are. I'll tell you.
I mean, if I have to be that way, I guess.
Oh, did you get stuck with this? You're doing
No. This is Skyla's really organizing this.
Skyla.
Yes. Kate takes it on, but Kate actually had her little child today, so she gave birth today to a baby. So.
Oh, how wonderful!
Yeah. So she's off for a while.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. So.
What did she have?
She had a little girl.
A little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you know the name?
Cambry.
Cambry. Interesting name.
Yeah.
Interesting name.
Yeah. So we got that picture like an hour and a half ago. We have a new
No
baby.
kidding.
Yep.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. We're happy for her.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So she'll be off till the fall sometime. So Skyla is taking on organizing the golf outing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yes, definitely. And we are limiting the number of teams this year also because of COVID, just to be responsible. So there are still some slots open if people want teams or would like to play. Prices vary depending on if you're a Growth Alliance member, a country club member, so there's a few different pricings. But we encourage people to get signed up if they do want to participate, for sure.
You know, I hate to put you on the spot, but of course I'm going to do it anyway. I saw Denny Ploutz last night, his wife, and Adam stopped in over at Old Boston. And I was reminded once again of a question that has always popped into my head. What does Denny Ploutz actually do?
So many things.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Does he live in meetings or what?
Well, it's a little different now. But yes, he was in a lot of meetings.
Yes, he is.
As we've said a million times already, pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. Meetings have changed a lot. But yeah, no, he's always talking with people. People are always looking to speak with him. And he's a very sought-after man.
Really? Ploutz?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ploutz is a great guy.
Yeah, he is.
Ploutz is a great guy. All right. Lydia sure has been our guest. Are we talking about anything else here with the Growth Alliance, or what are we doing?
No, I mean, I guess if we're done, we're done. Yeah.
Okay. I know I can speak for Lydia when I wish the Fort Dodge Senior High girls the best of luck today in the championship game.
Absolutely. That's so cool.
Out at Harlan Rogers Park. They're taking on Cedar Rapids Kennedy. And I don't want to put a curse on Cedar Rapids Kennedy necessarily, but I just hope the Dodgers win. I'll just leave it like that. I don't know. I have a lot of power, Lydia. I don't know if you
Do you?
So if I put a curse on Cedar Rapids Kennedy, something bad can happen. Then I'd feel guilty, and who needs it, right?
Do you want people to think you're a witch of some sort?
Well, I won't go witch, but I will say I have an unusual amount of power that I don't even understand.
Interesting. Interesting.
It fakes me out every now and then. All right, Lydia sure has been our guest. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, broadcasting live.
2:23, the news is coming up.
The money behind sustainable ad. Hello, I'm Megan Grebner on Brownfield. Talk with Fieldwork is a content partnership with Brownfield and the Fieldwork podcast. Implementing new sustainable practices can be expensive, but there are a whole host of grants and funding that can help farmers finance those changes. In this edition of Talk with Fieldwork, Zach Johnson, a fifth-generation farmer and co-host of the Fieldwork podcast, digs into some of the options available to farmers. We'll find out more on Brownfield right after this.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic in the ocean. Here's a cool way to repurpose a plastic bottle. Build an awesome terrarium. Cut a large plastic bottle in half and fill the base with sand, pebbles, potting soil, and your favorite plant. I chose an African violet. Put the top of the bottle over your base and place it in the sun. Your plant will grow sealed in its own ecosystem. Fun, right? Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
Farms typically run like well-oiled machines, and changing things up to implement more sustainable practices can be cumbersome and expensive. Zach Johnson is co-host of the Fieldwork podcast.
Anytime you change up your operation, you can have additional costs to that. And so if you're talking about implementing some different practices on your farm, there's going to be new costs there, or there may be. And if you're looking at cover crops, you're going to have expense into the seed itself. You're going to have expense into how do you plant that? How does it change your operation? Because you may have to kill that cover crop off at some point, whether you do that using chemistry or you kill it off mechanically.
He tells Brownfield while making those changes can be pricey, there are resources available to help farmers.
Sometimes some of these programs can be a little bit difficult to try to get through the process to get that funding to the farmers. So we actually talked with a couple of dairy farmers from Wisconsin. We talked with Tom Zwald and Todd Dornink. They've actually joined together with about 30 other producers from their area and formed what they call the Western Wisconsin Conservation Council. And this is an organization that is a farmer-led nonprofit organization where its members can actually apply for sustainable ag funding as a group and then work together as an independent group.
Johnson says by working together, the members can share their collective knowledge about what works and what doesn't.
As a group, they actually have results that show that they've been able to reduce nitrogen and phosphorus quite a bit. A lot of their members have implemented different practices on their farms, which has led to these reductions in the nutrients. You know, working as a group has helped them to share a lot of knowledge more easily, where they can actually work collectively as a group, and then they can show the group results on it. So they're not breaking it down on a farm-by-farm basis and saying, you know, this farmer did a better job than this farmer. What they're saying is that as a group, here's what we've been able to achieve.
And the group has actually opened up doors to other opportunities for the farmers who are participating.
The group is actually now working with the Dairy Strong Sustainability Alliance, which helps them on the front when it comes to writing grants, because, you know, writing grants can be pretty hard sometimes for a farmer. So the group is actually working with that alliance or that group to help them through that on that front.
Johnson says efforts like these at the watershed level are starting to pick up. To learn more, listen to this episode of the Fieldwork podcast at fieldworktalk.org. I'm Megan Grebner with Talk with Fieldwork, a content partnership on Brownfield.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Fort Dodge man has died from injuries he suffered in an accident last week. On July 22nd, 63-year-old Rick Collum was riding a bicycle on Kenyon Road here in Fort Dodge when he was in a collision with a car driven by 34-year-old Fort Dodge resident Joseph Johnson. Collum was flown to a hospital in Des Moines to be treated for his critical injuries. He passed away on Tuesday, according to the Iowa State Patrol. The crash is still being investigated. From Radio Iowa, Republicans in the U.S. Senate are forwarding another incarnation of the CARES Act to the House, which Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says is designed to address continuing problems with the public health crisis. Grassley chairs the Senate Finance Committee and says he was directly involved in several key elements of the COVID-19 pandemic relief legislation.
That includes updated tax relief to help get folks back to work and help businesses safely open, updates in our approach to the unemployment benefits to provide another round of economic impact payments.
That part of the plan provides another round of $1,200 payments for most Americans, with an additional $500 for each dependent. The measure would also lift restrictions on federal assistance that's already been sent to state and local governments, so it can be used to fill revenue shortfalls.
In other words, originally it was just supposed to be used to fight the virus, but if states have money left over, we'll give them flexibility on spending it.
He says the package contains a new credit for expenses, like for personal protective equipment and cleaning, which is needed to maintain a safe workplace for employees and customers. Grassley, a Republican, says the proposal sets a responsible path forward to address the problems our country is facing due to COVID-19.
We put forth a bill We got to negotiate with the House. I hope my Democrat colleagues will work with us in good faith. They better be open to compromise and keep the best interests of the American people in mind.
The package would help nursing home patients and workers, Grassley says, in addition to freezing Medicare premiums at 2020 levels to head off a predicted spike next year. In sports, Fort Dodge softball is headed to the state championship.
Swung on, hit toward left. Words is under it. That should do it, and that'll do it. Dodgers win 5-3, and they punched that ticket. And for the first time in program history, somebody has uttered the phrase, the Dodgers will play for the state championship.
Dodgers a winner 5-3. Ankeny Centennial would get the first run of the game in the top half of the first. Then the Dodgers would answer when TK Doster would go deep.
Swung on, driven toward right center gap, and that ball is gone. TK Doster, touch them all. You just went yard. 2-run blast, and the Dodgers answer the call.
2-run blast by Doster in the first. Her 8th of the season. Dodgers would then take a 2-1 lead. Ankeny Centennial would answer with 1 in the third to tie it at 2. Dodgers would go up by scoring 1 in the third. They would go up 3-2. Centennial would get 1 in the top half of the 5th and tie the game at 3. Then Martina Lowry would come to the plate for the Dodgers in the bottom half of the 5th.
Swung on, hit toward left center. It's out of here, a home run. A big-time blast. Touch them all, Martina Lowry. You just went yard.
The Dodgers would add an insurance run in the 6th when Martina Lowry would get her second hit of the game, an RBI single, to make the game 5-3. Pitching and defense would carry them the rest of the way. Jalen Adams the win in the circle, complete game, giving up 3 runs, scattering 9 hits, and striking out 3. Adams would set Ankeny Centennial down 1-2-3 in the top half of the 7th to win the game. Dodgers are in the state championship for the first time in program history. A 4:50 pregame and a 5 p.m. first pitch. They'll take on number 2 Cedar Rapids Kennedy for the Big Gold Trophy. Hear every pitch of the state championship game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Look at how the markets closed today. September corn up a quarter penny at $3.15 3/4. December up a half a cent at $3.26 3/4. March unchanged at $3.38 1/4. May unchanged at $3.45 3/4. August soybeans up a quarter penny at $8.91 3/4. September up 2 1/4 at $8.86 3/4. November up 3 at $8.88 1/4. January up 2 1/4 at $8.93 3/4. September wheat closed down 3 1/4 cents at $5.29 1/2. Soybean meal up $2.90 a ton at $2.89.80. August live cattle up 27 cents at $101.72. October up 70 at $106.75. August feeders up 105 at $143.02. September up 185 at $144.42. August lean hogs down 165 at $51.42. October down 150 at $48.32. I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Thanks to Dwayne Murley and Rob Jones. And the weather forecast, sunny today with a high of 83 at 79 right now. Overnight partly cloudy with a low of 60. Tomorrow it'll be sunny with a high of 85. On Saturday, a good chance of a thunderstorm in the afternoon. Other than that, it'll be sunny with a high of 85. Sunday, sunny with a high of 77. Monday, sunny with a high of 76. Tuesday, sunny with a high of 78. And on Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high of 78. Right now, it's, we have fair conditions, 79 degrees. Really, it's a beautiful day. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Rick Cullum has died. Ricky Lee Cullum, 63 years old of Fort Dodge, died Tuesday at the Iowa Methodist Hospital in Des Moines. The family will have a celebration of life at a later date. Gunderson Funeral Home is serving the family. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. David Osterberger, the Iowa Policy Project, coming up. It's 2:35.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor, brought to you by Riley Armstrong Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing emergencies don't usually happen during normal business hours, so Riley Armstrong is here for you 24/7. Call 955-2232. And the Fort Museum in Frontier Village, where history comes alive. Travel back in time and celebrate the heritage of Fort Dodge at the Fort Museum. Book your next special event at the Opera House, too. When severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Save big money in your next project now at Menards. Menards has over 1,200 in-stock moldings in wood species such as oak, poplar, pine, maple, and MDF in primed, ready to finish, and pre-finished options. And check out our Pro Pack selection to buy in bulk and save even more. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through August 1st. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Have you ever wondered how the brain works? What makes us tick? Join me, Greg Woods, every Wednesday morning for all the latest news on the brain, on aging, and the science behind it all. It's The Mind Boggles, every Wednesday morning at 8:30 on AM 1400 KVFD.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then, sentences gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. Babbel is created by language experts who use the spaced repetition method to help you learn quickly and remember what you learned. With Babbel, you can speak a new language. Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
Again, sincere wishes and best wishes to the Fort Dodge Senior High softball team. No matter what happens, we can be very proud of our girls. I don't know a single young lady on that team, but of course, being from a small town, the town's going to feel a certain sense of ownership, I guess, of the softball team, and a powerful sense of loyalty and pride, and I'm part of that. I feel very proud of the girls. I don't get off work until 5 o'clock, of course, and that means I can't go to the game and see it live. But, of course, we're going to have it here right at, I think 4:30 is what Rob said. That's the pregame show, and that's going to be on Sunny 99.7. That's Sunny 99.7. Or you can go to Alpha Media Fort Dodge, go to our website, and we'll carry it there. We're going to stream it live, I guess. So that's a couple of different ways to hear and see one of the greatest, if not the greatest, softball teams that the city of Fort Dodge has ever produced. Think about that for a minute. We're looking at one of the greatest, if not the greatest, softball teams the city's ever produced. So, Sunny 99.7 is where the pregame show starts at 4:30. I got to tell you, I'll be cheating a little bit on that's Mayor Bemrick's time, but we're going to have to, we'll have to butt in every now and then with an update on the game, I'm sure. David Osterberger, the Iowa Policy Project, is coming up in just a minute. Of course, David and the people at the Iowa Policy Project have figured me out by now. David is a big climate change guy. And he, sorry, I was reading my cell phone, which I should never do when I'm on the air. So, anyway, David is a co-founder of the Iowa Policy Project, a big climate change guy, but he doesn't talk to me much about climate change anymore because I'm more of a worker, somebody who supports workers and small businesses and everybody in Fort Dodge. That's who I want to support. I do question the government, even our local government, because there's no such thing as real journalism anymore. I shouldn't, I think that's what Rush Limbaugh said. Rush is on this station, and I got to tell you, I don't tune in every day to Rush, but he's right that there's no such thing as real journalism anymore. There's advocacy, and that's it. Advocacy, and that's it. He's right. So keeping that in mind, of course, I'm always going to advocate for our town and be suspicious of the government. David Osterberg, again, is someone who believes strongly in climate change and fighting climate change. He's a co-founder of the Iowa Policy Project, and that is a group in Iowa City, again, that tries to influence public policy with actual fact. But of course, Alex Jones now seems to be in control of facts.
He does, doesn't he?
Oh my God.
That some of the stuff, like, God, the craziness.
There was a
having sex with aliens brought on some kind of disease. How can anybody believe this?
Well, I did believe that Hillary Clinton was a serial killer. He did say that. He's responsible for that poor, pathetic, crazy man in North Carolina driving to a Pizza Hut in Washington, D.C. because he thought there were children being sexually tortured in the basement of this pizza place. I don't even know. He did fire a couple of shots. Fortunately, no one was hurt. But he did not, in fact, find children being sexually tortured in a basement on Hillary Clinton's commands, or whatever he said. There was a PBS special, Frontline. Of course, I'm a Frontline fan. And it was about Alex Jones. And even I didn't know he was that crazy. Wow. I mean, Barack Obama was apparently gay, and he knows this because Michelle Obama is actually a man. I wanted to be the first to tell you that Michelle Obama was a man.
How did she have those kids then?
I don't know. They must be adopted, or perhaps they're aliens, or God knows what. But I think we've had enough fun with that sort of craziness now. And believe it or not, Alex Jones is still on the air saying all kinds of ridiculous things. But
probably making millions of dollars saying it.
Well, he's been hit with some major lawsuits, and the things he said about those children in Connecticut was shocking, shocking, and ugly. And one poor woman, and he says these things that these parents, who were the Sandy Hook parents, were in on a giant government scam or something, and one of the mothers was stalked by this crazy woman from Florida, saying all kinds of terrible things about her daughter, that she never had a daughter, and that even if she did, oh God, it was just awful. Finally, the Sandy Hook parents sued him. And I think that's still going on in court, but I hope they leave him out in the street because I have no time. He's a disgrace to radio, I'll tell you. That's saying something. Anyway, as long as we have Glenn Beck, and I've said this a few times over the years. If I ever met Glenn Beck, and I would like to meet Glenn Beck, just so I can beat the hell out of him, He makes us all look like idiots, that's just bozo. Anyway, again, David Osterberg with the Iowa Policy Project, and we want to talk about the bottle bill. Now, I will start off by relating a story from my youth. Now, me and my little friends thought it was awfully cool to get a couple of 6-packs or a couple of 12-packs of beer before we were 21 years old and ride around the gravel roads in Iowa drinking beer. And, of course, when we were done with the cans, and sometimes we kept all the cans, so we could all throw them in the ditch at once. So it wasn't unusual for a couple of carloads of little juvenile delinquents of 55 years ago to throw a couple of cases of empty beer cans in a ditch somewhere. And we were hardly the only ones. If you drove up and down the highways and the gravel roads in the state of Iowa, somebody was always throwing a lot of cans, pop cans, beer cans out in the ditch. It was a mess. The bottle bill came along, and all that pretty much cleared up. It was a huge success. Some people who were environmentalists at the time thought, oh, this will never really work, but they were pleasantly surprised. The bottle bill worked. Our ditches in our countryside are not littered anymore, at least not with that sort of thing. And the problem, I see it, David. Now, I was in high school with a girl who tried to start a recycling center, and she did. She rented an old building, and she worked like a dog 6 days a week. She had trucks, and she was hauling out a huge amount of cans, and she couldn't make it in that business. There wasn't enough profitability. There was 1 cent per can profit for her, and she just couldn't make a living. And that's still the problem.
It still is 1 cent a can.
Yeah, and nobody can make a real living on that.
No,
I mean,
and that's one of the things you want to do if you want to make the can bill even better, is you got to raise that amount.
Yeah.
And the other thing you need to do, I think you need to kick it up to 10 cents, because if you look at when Governor Ray passed it, 1978, goes into effect in 79, 5 cents is now 20 cents. That's
really?
How much inflation has gone up since then. So it ought to be a dime. It ought to be a quarter. I don't care.
Well, I know you don't, but the first thing we're going to hear from, and maybe even from me, I don't know, is if you raise it.
Okay, but let me say it ought to be a dime. Let me stop there.
I would certainly go along with you, and I would certainly advocate for even higher. I remember my high school friend. She was never a girlfriend, but she was a good girl and a hard worker. Still is, I suppose. But she was so disappointed that she couldn't make a living as hard as she worked. So if we really are serious about doing something with the redeemable cans, we should get it up to 15 cents. I'm going to outdo you here today, David.
You are, you out enviro me.
I was just introducing you before you called as a guy who believed in climate change and all those
Yes,
sort of
right. I do.
So God, this is a first. After all these years, I've out-enviroed David Osterberg. Probably a little frightening to both of us.
And this is really happening. It's interesting. Oregon is the first state. We were one of the first states. This has caught on worldwide, Mike. There are, the last I looked, and this is like data from 2017, 300 million people had, they could take their cans and bottles back from where they bought them and get a redemption, get paid that nickel or 10 cents. Now, that is going to be soon, maybe even now, up to 600 million people. It's going to be 1 billion people very, very soon. And it isn't so much the cans and bottles in the ditches as there all that plastic in the oceans, which is also another problem of just people throwing stuff away.
Mm-hmm.
And so the movement is exactly there. And so you look around us, and Minnesota, even Minnesota doesn't have it. Wisconsin, we're the only one out here in the prairie. But we were just smarter than everybody else. It doesn't always happen, but we were.
Listen, I'm not in favor of sticking the grocery stores with this problem either. I think that we should make it profitable for a couple or a person to at least make a living handling all these cans.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean,
wait, remember, I studied. I actually am an economist.
Look out!
That's what I studied. So I'm certainly on this incentive kind of stuff with you.
Yeah, good. Why don't we have it? Every time we talk about raising the nickel to a dime or 15 cents or whatever, oh my God, that'll raise the price of beer or pop or whatever.
Right.
And because the companies are never going to take less profit. As a matter of fact, here's the real fear. If we up the redemption cost from a nickel to a dime, or preferably 15 cents, the pop companies and the beer companies and all these other can places that give us cans, they'll use that as an excuse to drive the price of their product up even further and increase their profit margin. I understand that, and I don't think you can really go out and make a law, especially under a Republican governor, where the profit margin is mandated by law one way or the other. But we have to, once again, we should be smart enough to figure this out. Here's the problem. We don't want to stick the grocery stores with it, and I know if any grocery store guys here in town are listening, they're jumping up and down and applauding because they definitely don't want to deal with it.
They don't want to deal with
it.
They
don't want to do it.
I'm not on your side on this. I think that if they sell it, they ought to take the bottles back.
No.
They got the nickel. They ought to give it back to
me. Well, then you have a significant group that, by the way, can be very powerful down at the State House in swaying legislators as to raising the deposit cost. Because believe me, Hy-Vee, they'll be down in every legislator's ear if we try to.
But they have been. They have been.
Right.
God. Actually, here's a story, right? You often say that I ran against Chuck Grassley, when I thought that I could beat him, and no one else did. That's for sure. One of the places I spoke was at the Hy-Vee. I had 500 Hy-Vee managers in this big room.
Wow.
So I decided that I probably don't have any votes to lose here. So I said, I just have two things to say to you guys, that you ought to support the bottle bill and stop being so annoying about trying to get rid of it. And you ought to also want to raise the minimum wage. And the reason, and you first of all think about how many people you're employed at, these kids that are carrying stuff out to the cars for people. And so that's the first thing you think about is, I will have to pay more money out of payroll. When they ought to think, if my customers in my town had more money, they're probably going to spend it on groceries before they're going to spend it on Lamborghinis. My golly. Why not think about it that way? Tepid applause. That's all.
Lamborghinis?
Again, I just felt that this was a wonderful place for me to seem brave. But again, I had no votes to lose.
So you really thought you were going to beat old Chuck, huh?
I did. I thought it might be the time.
Yeah.
It might be the time. I had a 1958 truck that we drove around in parades. That's when he started his career in 1958 in the legislature.
Yeah.
So I thought this may be time, and crazy ex-professor might be the person who could do it. And but since nobody agreed with me, I couldn't get any money, which made it very hard to get that idea out to more people.
Well, that's too bad. I talked with Grassley just the other day, as a matter of fact, and God, that guy's got to be 84 years old, something like that.
He does, yeah.
And it looks like he's getting his son ready to take his place.
Grandson, actually.
Grandson. Is that who Pat Grassley is? That's right, grandson.
Yeah.
But
I think he's doing that exactly.
Well, and I don't like dynasties. We've talked about it before.
Well, we shouldn't. I mean, we're a republic.
That's right. I don't like the Bush dynasty, the Clinton dynasty, none of them. I don't.
Yeah, right. Right. We agree on that, too.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, even the Kennedys, not every Kennedy has a great idea.
No.
Some do.
Yeah, well, Ted had a great idea. Apparently, he's showing up in public without his pants, for God's sake. Remember that nice little story? He's with his nephews and some of the girls that are his nephew's age. His nephews were in their 20s, and he was pushing 60. They're down in Florida at an event, and Ted goes in the other room. He was wearing a suit and tie and the whole thing. He goes in the other room and comes back out wearing a shirt and tie but nothing else.
No. Are you sure that isn't Alex Jones?
No. That was the famous rape case where one of his nephews was accused of rape.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's easy to discover. But I think Ted probably had a couple of drinks. No, that wasn't. That unfortunately was real. But I don't blame you for asking. So let's see.
Dynasties. Do we agree on dynasties?
Yes, we agree on dynasties. I don't think Jack Kennedy would have done that, or Bob.
That's right.
One.
You're ahead of me on the Enviro on this program
right.
anyway.
On this program anyway, but I don't understand your hostility to the grocery stores.
No. I think that I want to raise the fee from 1 cent to 2 cents to make it more reasonable for them to make something out of it. I want them to make more. Raise it. If we raise the thing to 10 cents, you could probably put it up to 3 cents. They could then afford to, like Hy-Vee has in these machines, that take the bottles and keep them repaired and keep the place clean and all of that.
Oh, I don't know.
More money could help out the system. Come on, I like economic incentives.
Oh, I don't know.
Remember, I spent a lot of years studying economics, Mike.
I appreciate that, but I just think that we should have a separate building for this. We have a Hy-Vee here in town, of course, and there's always people showing up with grocery store carts full of cans, and especially in the summer it smells, and it's just... Hy-Vee does its absolute best. I know the manager out there. He's a 5-star guy, but it's just sometimes impossible to keep the smell out of those places. I mean, they do have, it's like separate from, it's in the same building, but they have the redemption center kind of walled off. So
yeah. There's things to do, and if you're getting paid enough, you can do that. And so that's still the best way of doing it. And again, that's where things are going in the world. Because think about this. Iowans for more than 40 years have been totally responsible on this. More responsible than anybody else in the Midwest. Well, Michigan, I guess, is still in the Midwest. But it's us in Michigan. And we're damn good at what we do. We are responsible. We take our bottles back. Except for the kids that throw them away on the gravel roads like you did.
Yeah, but we don't. I wouldn't do it today because I'd be throwing away 30 cents for God's sake.
That's right. Right.
That's just not in me to do it. As a matter of fact, I still I haven't all summer. I've been putting them in recycling myself and waving goodbye to them. But I have recycled my cans for years and years and years and got my $3 credit or whatever the heck it is.
Right.
That's just because that's who I am. But I don't understand your hostility to the grocery stores here, or your fixation. Maybe
no. It's not hostility. It's saying, let me fix it. More money.
Well, I know that's what you want to say, but why can't we have it profitable enough so that my old friend from high school can get her building back?
Sure. That's fine, too. I don't care. But the one thing I want to do is you got to drop it off where you bought it, and then they can contract with that can shed or whatever to take them away. But it's got to be convenient, because right now what the Fairways and Hy-Vee in this area has done is they want me to take my cans to Marion, Iowa. And it's, 14 miles from here.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Instead of right here in town. That's not right.
You don't have any type of grocery store in Mount Vernon?
Mount Vernon, yeah, we do. That's where I want to take it.
Okay.
1 mile. I don't want to take it 14 miles.
Well, you are taking it 1 mile now. Right?
Yes. No. Hy-Vee has made a deal. We don't have a Hy-Vee here in town. But where it used to be that you could take it to Hy-Vee, now Hy-Vee is contracted with the can shed and increase the number of miles you got to take it. That's going to cut down the number of people like you.
By golly, now this is a popular program in the state of Iowa. It's so popular.
It is, and there's good research. What you just said, I can back it up with surveys that have been done that shows that.
It's so popular that for the first time since you've been on the air, a guy has emailed me with information on the redemption law.
Really?
Yeah. He's talking about. I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you get the Des Moines Register or not, but Fairway has designated the first hour to those with higher susceptibility to coronavirus. Of course, they've been doing that. I think they open at 7, and they let older people like me and you in. But they have been talking about doing something different with how they handle cans. And I can't read the whole thing right now because I'm on the air and we're out of time anyway. But yeah, this is something that a lot of people feel strongly about, and they want to keep the law. And
they want to keep the law.
If we can just get on board with raising that redemption fee, we're going to be all right, I think.
I think we do. No, we agree.
Okay, good enough. Thank you, David Osterberger of the Iowa Policy Project.
Bye, Mike.
Bye-bye. It's 3 o'clock.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD.
More protection for your face. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. With a coronavirus surge spreading in the U.S., disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci is suggesting that shielding the eyes could help, also keeping you from touching your eyes. Another White House task force member, Dr. Deborah Birx, weighing in on that.
The thing about the face shields, we think that that could protect the individuals and that it would decrease the ability for them to touch their eyes and spread virus as well as those droplets coming towards them.
Dr. Fauci, the CDC chief, and others due at a House hearing tomorrow. At a Senate hearing today, other health officials raising concern about ongoing shortages of protective equipment despite the president's reassurances. Wisconsin's governor issuing a statewide mask mandate today with a possible $200 fine for violators. President Trump wearing one while visiting the Red Cross headquarters, highlighting the call for COVID survivors to donate blood plasma that can help treat other patients. Earlier, a White House meeting for a grief-stricken family.
President Trump in the Oval Office meeting with the family of slain Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Guillen, 1 month after Guillen was found bludgeoned to death about 30 miles from the military base.
As you know, the FBI and the DOJ are now involved. We got them involved. And the people at Fort Hood, where it took place, are very much involved.
Another soldier in Guillen's squadron who has since taken his own life was the prime suspect in her murder. Guillen's family said she told them she was sexually harassed, but did not report it to her superiors for fear of retaliation. In Washington, John Decker, Fox News.
At least 6 other soldiers stationed at Fort Hood have died or been found dead since March. The U.S. Army naming an independent panel to review the command climate there. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20, so switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
Oh, whale! Guys, whale! Wow, whale. Oh, that's a big whale. Okay. Whale, whale, whale. Oh, no, whale!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered. Get a quote today in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com.
Well, at least it wasn't a shark, am I right?
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Another former Minneapolis police officer charged in George Floyd's death asks a judge to drop his case.
Tu Tao, who's charged along with 3 other former Minneapolis police officers with aiding and abetting murder and manslaughter in the death of George Floyd, is asking the judge in the case to drop the charges against him, the second former officer charged to do so, on the grounds the charges are not supported by probable cause. The motion includes body camera video and other evidence in a case where a 4th former officer is charged with murder. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Remembering Congressman John Lewis.
He knew that nonviolent protest is patriotic, a way to raise public awareness and put a spotlight on injustice and make the powers that be uncomfortable.
Former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush, all among those paying tribute for Lewis's funeral today in Atlanta. Herman Cain has died. The former Republican presidential hopeful and businessman was 74, and he had a month-long battle with COVID, diagnosed not long after attending the president's return to rallying in Tulsa.
June the 29th, he was diagnosed with coronavirus and went to an Atlanta hospital. A month after being diagnosed, he remained on a ventilator, although people who were close to him were saying that it appeared as though he might be getting better. The word that went out was that his organs were strong, that they were trying to heal his lungs with an infusion of oxygen through a ventilator. Herman Cain did have some underlying conditions. Back in 2006, he had colon cancer, which had spread to his liver.
Fox's John Roberts. The pandemic's effects weighing heavily on Wall Street after a second quarter plunge in GDP. The Dow down over 200 points heading into the close. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Fort Dodge man has died from injuries he suffered in an accident last week. On July 22nd, 63-year-old Rick Collum was riding a bicycle on Kenyon Road here in Fort Dodge when he was in a collision with a car driven by 34-year-old Fort Dodge resident Joseph Johnson. Collum was flown to a hospital in Des Moines to be treated for his critical injuries. He passed away on Tuesday, according to the Iowa State Patrol. The crash is still being investigated. From Radio Iowa, Republicans in the U.S. Senate are forwarding another incarnation of the CARES Act to the House, which Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says is designed to address continuing problems with the public health crisis. Grassley chairs the Senate Finance Committee and says he was directly involved in several key elements of the COVID-19 pandemic relief legislation.
That includes updated tax relief to help get folks back to work and help businesses safely open, updates in our approach to the unemployment benefits to provide another round of economic impact payments.
That part of the plan provides another round of $1,200 payments for most Americans, with an additional $500 for each dependent. The measure would also lift restrictions on federal assistance that's already been sent to state and local governments, so it can be used to fill revenue shortfalls.
In other words, originally it was just supposed to be used to fight the virus, but if states have money left over, we'll give them flexibility on spending it.
He says the package contains a new credit for expenses, like for personal protective equipment and cleaning, which is needed to maintain a safe workplace for employees and customers. Grassley, a Republican, says the proposal sets a responsible path forward to address the problems our country is facing due to COVID-19.
We put forth a bill. We got to negotiate with the House. I hope my Democrat colleagues will work with us in good faith. They better be open to compromise and keep the best interests of the American people in mind.
The package would help nursing home patients and workers, Grassley says, in addition to freezing Medicare premiums at 2020 levels to head off a predicted spike next year. In sports, Fort Dodge softball is headed to the state championship.
Swung on, hit toward left. Words is under it. That should do it, and that'll do it. Dodgers win 5-3, and they punched that ticket. And for the first time in program history, somebody has uttered the phrase, the Dodgers will play for the state championship.
Dodgers a winner 5-3. Ankeny Centennial would get the first run of the game in the top half of the first. Then the Dodgers would answer when TK Doster would go deep.
Swung on, driven toward right center gap, and that ball is gone. TK Doster, touch them all. He just went yard. 2-run blast, and the Dodgers answer the call.
2-run blast by Doster in the first. Her 8th of the season. Dodgers would then take a 2-1 lead. Ankeny Centennial would answer with 1 in the third to tie it at 2. Dodgers would go up by scoring 1 in the third. They would go up 3-2. Centennial would get 1 in the top half of the 5th and tie the game at 3. Then Martina Lowry would come to the plate for the Dodgers in the bottom half of the 5th.
Swung on, hit toward left center. It's out of here, a home run. A big-time blast. Touch them all, Martina Lowry. You just went yard.
The Dodgers would add an insurance run in the sixth when Martina Lowry would get her second hit of the game, an RBI single, to make the game 5-3. Pitching and defense would carry them the rest of the way. Jalen Adams the win in the circle, complete game, giving up 3 runs, scattering 9 hits, and striking out 3. Adams would set Ankeny Centennial down 1-2-3 in the top half of the 7th to win the game. Dodgers are in the state championship for the first time in program history. A 4:50 pregame and a 5 p.m. first pitch. They'll take on number 2 Cedar Rapids Kennedy for the Big Gold Trophy. Hear every pitch of the state championship game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with highs around 83. Northeasterly winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Lows around 59. Tonight, partly cloudy. Partly cloudy again tomorrow, 84. Mid-80s Saturday with a chance for scattered storms. Much cooler Sunday with highs in the upper 70s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 82.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, I'm the Doctor of Truth, and Sam Clovis is on the phone. And Sam, I should have texted you about this. I'm going to have to ask you to call me back in about 10 or 15 minutes. The reason being, the Fort Dodge Senior High girls are in the state softball championship game against Cedar Rapids Kennedy this afternoon at 5, and by God, the whole town's up in arms. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do, and just text me when you're ready, or you want me to call back in 15.
That's perfect. Would you do that, please?
I shall indeed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and I had to get Rob Jones in here because this really is a red-letter day for Fort Dodge.
It is, and first let me say thank you to Sam Clovis for being courteous there.
Right. He's a decent man.
You know, Iowa Nice is a real thing. I found that out, and yeah, everybody's excited. I'm excited. State championship game tonight. Fort Dodge, Cedar Rapids, Kennedy, 1-2 heavyweight fight here tonight. Should be tremendous. One of these teams, Mike, because neither has won the state championship in softball, one of these teams is going to be their first time hoisting the Big Gold Trophy tonight.
Kennedy hasn't won either, I take it.
No, Kennedy has never won it. Fort Dodge has never won it. So somebody's going to be a new champ.
This is going to be a dogfight then.
It is. It's going to be a dogfight tonight between two teams that are really good and pretty similar. Cedar Rapids Kennedy has tremendous pop in their lineup. They've got 4 hitters, I think, hitting over 400.
Really?
But Fort Dodge can counter that with 4 hitters hitting over 400 and 3 hitting over 500. So they have a little less team batting average than what Fort Dodge has, but they've got a lot of pop. They've hit 38 home runs on the year, and that ranks in the top 5 in the state. So they can hit the ball out of the ballpark. They're going to be aggressive. Their pitching has been good. The numbers on their pitchers are very, very good. I imagine they'll start Kaylin Kinney tonight. She's kind of been their ace. ERA is .37, microscopic there, Mike.
Well, yeah, they have a wicked pitcher, Cedar Rapids Kennedy, right?
Yeah, they've got 2 pretty good ones, and we may see them both tonight. Kaylin Kinney will probably start. Jamie Scheck is their number 2. They may go to if they get in some trouble. They kind of have that luxury. Scheck also has an ERA that's like under 1. It's like .6 something. So they've been really good. Now, I think there's a difference in this team, and I think some of the numbers for Cedar Rapids Kennedy, and I don't want to discredit them because they're a great softball team. They've won 24 games. They've won 19 in a row, and they didn't get here by accident. You don't just get in the championship. So I don't discredit them, but I think some of their numbers have been built up against lesser opponents than what Fort Dodge has seen throughout the course of the season, including a couple of teams playing for the 4A state championship, Carlisle and Winterset. Fort Dodge has wins over both of them. So I think that some of the numbers that Kennedy may have built up may have been against lesser competition at points in the year.
Okay, well, it's important for adults like me not to get too carried away. These are young girls, talented girls. I saw one of them, I can never think of her name. one hit a big home run the other night.
The one that hit him yesterday was Lowry had one in the fifth that broke the tie, and then Doster had one yesterday, and then Monday Jalen Adams had the home run Monday to kind of get them going.
Okay, all right. But anyway, speaking as someone who has very nearly been escorted from the Dodger gym years ago for getting a little carried away during my son's wrestling.
Oh, okay.
I want to, because I'm sure the Cedar Rapids girls are girls, and I hope we can all be good sports. And
I think we will. I think these two teams and fan bases really don't have a lot of disdain for each other because they're not real natural rivals. Now, if you're a Dodger football fan, you'd like a little payback for what Cedar Rapids Kennedy did to them in the playoffs because it was, like 50-something, to 20, like it was bad. But if, that's about it. The only thing I could think that would be any sort of heat between these two teams at all because they don't really play each other a lot. But ironically, Fort Dodge has played Cedar Rapids Kennedy for state championships. They played them in basketball, boys basketball for the state championship, and they played them, I think, in baseball. I think I read that for the state championship too. So while they don't play them much, they tend to play them if they're going to play them for the state championship or something,
Well, you've been to Cedar Rapids covering games.
I went to the football game that I was talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's right. So it's a much bigger town than we are.
Oh yeah, it's a big town.
I mean, they have, I don't know how many high schools down there either. I know they have
4, I think, in Cedar Rapids. I think 3 or 4. There's Kennedy, Jefferson, something else. 3 or 4.
They have Xavier, the Catholic school, I believe. Is it Xavier?
I've heard of that, but I don't know where it is, so I don't know if it is.
Yeah,
in Cedar Rapids.
Most towns in Iowa have a Catholic school. I mean, of any size. But I can't remember what the name of the Catholic school down in Cedar Rapids. Somebody help me if you would, 955-1400. But what are you looking for tonight? Now, you've been following the girls. You've been calling almost all
I think it's
games.
going to be a dogfight of a ball game. I think it's going to be a matter of who makes a play where. I think what's going to really be important tonight is to not leave runners on base. When you get runners in scoring position, you need to score them. Fort Dodge won that game yesterday 5-3, but they did have a sequence, Mike, where they had the bases loaded and 1 out, and they only scored 1 run.
Ouch.
If they get the bases loaded and 1 out, you need to put up a 3 spot against Kennedy because you've got to figure at some point they're going to probably get their offense going at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not playing a D-League team here. This is they didn't get to the state championship.
They've been number 2 all year. That's no mistake.
Have we been number 1 all year?
Yes, Fort Dodge has been number 1 all year. Kennedy's been number 2 all year. So the rankings and the seedings here seem to kind of play out to where this is what we got on the last day. This is the 2 best teams.
Didn't you tell me that Cedar Rapids Kennedy's got a 19-game winning streak?
They do have a 19-game winning streak. They're 24-1, 19-game winning streak. Last loss for them was in the month of June, late in the month of June. So
who was that?
They lost to Iowa City High, which
Iowa City High, really?
Yeah, Iowa City High didn't make the state tournament, so they're not, but it was like a second game of a doubleheader on the road. So similar to what Fort Dodge has done, they've lost, but they've lost to ranked teams in that situation, but have lost the second game of a doubleheader on the road.
Sure. Yeah, Iowa City West is in it. Well, Iowa City West is kind of the upper middle class school in Iowa City, and they just don't turn out great teams. I mean, they just for whatever reason.
I think this may have been City High. Is there a difference?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is.
Okay.
Iowa City West and City High. They're both public schools.
I think this was City High. I think
this is City High. Yeah. City High usually has they have some decent wrestlers every now and then, but we don't see a lot of state champions out of the Iowa City area for some reason, unless it's in Class A football because they have Iowa City Regina. Now, a lot of the little Catholic schools like St. Edmund, St. Edmund not so much in the last few years, but St. Edmund has been very competitive. We've been over to the Cedar Falls to the bowl over there, and got beat 35-0 by Iowa City Regina, by the way. We were undefeated, and so was Iowa City, and they just came in and smoked us. So that's just the way it goes.
Well, I tell you who's really good in Class A now was West Hancock this year. They were,
weren't they?
Your champions for this year. And also another you've got some of those little small schools that play 8-man that like Don Bosco that's just like dominant, that just win all the time. So you do have some of that out of those smaller areas and in some of the Iowa City, Regina and that kind of thing with some of the smaller classes. But that's all you hear about from Iowa City, unless maybe they've got a coach there at the college who has a kid that can really play in some sport or the other.
Sure,
then they may be pretty good. Kind of like how Ames has been at times,
Don Bosco is a pretty good wrestling school. Just out of curiosity, don't worry, folks, I'm not going to get him away from the game. But is wrestling a very big sport in South Carolina where you come from?
No, not really.
Yeah, I didn't think
there are pockets of it, there are towns that really get into it and they're really good at it, but it's not like it is here, man. It's a religion up here.
It is a religion.
I've realized that just being here. This first year was wait a minute, these people are crazy about this wrestling.
Well, we are definitely crazy. I'll tell you, North Carolina is, in the last 15 years, they have decided they're going to have a good wrestling school at North Carolina State, and they do. They have some good wrestlers.
They do, yeah, they do. But it's not. They're not recruiting guys from down there. They're recruiting guys from the Midwest to come in.
Well, I remember, and LSU doesn't have a wrestling program anymore, but LSU's head coach used to be from Osage, Iowa, and he was always in the state trying to
recruit wrestlers,
for the Southeast Conference. And a guy I knew in high school was a SEC champion at least once, maybe more. I don't know.
I've been to Louisiana a lot. I lived in Shreveport for a little while. I spent quite a bit of time in Baton Rouge and Lafayette in that area. And let me tell you something. In Iowa in February, if you could send me to Baton Rouge, I would take you up on it, buddy. Let me tell you something, because it don't get cold down there.
Yeah, as you know. See, you're one of us now, Rob. You've lived through a winter here.
Man, just barely.
Yeah, and more importantly, you've driven several miles in the dead of night in January just to call a doggone basketball game.
I did, and most of it wasn't that bad except for one where the snow kind of fell in between the two schools and was falling as I was trying to get through it, and that was kind of dicey. But
well, yeah, the problem is you never know where that ice is sometimes,
True.
on those roads.
True. For the last 20 miles of that trip, I just got in the grooves that a transfer truck was in and just drove those same grooves.
Rob Jones, I won't ask you to make a prediction because it'll jinx the girls, but I appreciate you being here.
Hey, I appreciate it. And the game's a 5 o'clock first pitch on Sunny 99.7 today, and, of course, yourfortdodge.com. So everybody that can't be at Harlan Rogers today, you can pick it up on the radio, and we'll have it. And, maybe the Dodgers can keep that big gold for the very first time.
That would be all right, wouldn't it?
It would.
That would just be all right. Whoever it was hung up, I hope that wasn't Sam. I hope that wasn't Clovis, for God's sake. Anyway, I do thank you, Rob. What else can we say in summation? Is there anything?
Nothing other than, if you could get out there, I know this team would appreciate all the support. I think it's going to be a big crowd, and I think it's going to be a big time in town, the history of town tonight.
Oh, big time. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Rob and I would like to thank Sam Clovis for being gracious enough to call us back. This is Sam's regularly scheduled on-air time, and after the hello, I guess if that was Sam, he's gone again. What a bummer. But anyway, after the big victory yesterday, Fort Dodge over Centennial, I just kind of lost it. I just kind of lost track of time here and all those other things. But I am looking forward to Sam Clovis calling us back. He's an influential voice in Midwest conservatism, and I don't think you'll find him on the streets of Portland. Menke's out there, I think, and Andy Fritz. But no, Sam isn't. Sam's not going to be out there at all. So we certainly wish the Fort Dodge girls the best, absolutely, and really looking forward to the game tonight. Tough team, no doubt, in Cedar Rapids, Kennedy. But I have confidence in the girls. have confidence in the Fort Dodge girls. They have just, well, they've just been extraordinary all year, and they have a great coach out there, and Coach Andy, so really looking forward to that game. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Let's go to the phones. Is that you, Sam?
This is Steve. I'm sorry. Just two things. There's 5 high schools in Cedar Rapids.
5 high schools. All right.
And Prairie is the one you missed. And then what station is it going to be on? Is it going to be streamed?
Sunny 99.7.
And is it going to be streamed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yeah, that's there's a lot of interest in town about it, obviously. And I get off at 5, so I'm going to be listening to either Sunny 99.7 or streaming. I think I'll go with the radio broadcast. It's going to be clearer than streaming, I have a feeling. At least I hope. I hope if whatever happens as far as the streaming, or if there's a better signal on the streaming thing, we'll go over there. But certainly we'll be there tonight, like a lot of other folks in town. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, waiting on Sam Clovis.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable.
Is that you, Sam?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, just had so many calls on that softball game. Anyway, yeah, we're coming up in just a minute.
All right.
.com. BABBEL.com.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right, 60 rounds of freedom at all times. And on behalf of Rob Jones, and Rob, you heard Rob say this on the air a little while ago, we both want to really thank Sam Clovis for his courtesy and understanding in regard to, well, this is his time. I mean, this is the time that Sam's supposed to be on. And I got all excited about the Dodger girls winning the game yesterday and making their way into the championship round for the first time in history, Sam, that I just forgot to text you, and I beg your pardon, sir.
That's okay. I know it's exciting. One of my sons played for the state championship in football in Colorado, and I know how nuts it can get. So, yeah.
Well, it's a big deal for us.
As a proud parent, yeah. This was many, many years ago.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
So, Sam, looking over the national and state scene here, what do you see?
Well, I really have been a little disappointed in what I've found with the Trump campaign. There's a lot of the inside baseball stuff I won't necessarily get into, but I think that the pandemic has caused a tremendous amount of disruption to what normally would be going on, and I think that the Democrats are doing everything they can to ensure that this chaos continues past the election day. Now, the thing that just a couple of things on the campaign. I am very concerned that we are focusing so much on technology that we're not focusing on things that get people to vote, and that's that personal contact and doing those other things. And the pandemic has affected that dramatically for both parties, by the way. The second thing is the fact that I think, and I've mentioned this before, that I don't see any Republican pushback against this whole notion about what's going on with this new care package that we're going to get out here, and I'm afraid that the president is going to sign this extension of the $600 unemployment benefit past the election, which will effectively cancel about 10 million jobs and will keep the economy depressed. We've already seen unprecedented shrinkage in the GDP for the second quarter, almost a third of it, 32 point some percent, almost a third of the GDP shrinkage for the second quarter. And so I don't see that's not going to change because consumption is what drives that. So those things are the things that concern me about what's going on. The internals on the Trump campaign and the stupidity on the part of the Republicans.
Yeah, is this Mitch or what's going on here? Because I don't hear.
I think it's Mitch and McCarthy, and I think a lot of the Republicans are afraid of delaying. They've allowed the Democrats to run out the clock. I think it's next week, they go on a 5-week summer break to campaign, and so and for all their junkets and all that kind of stuff, and then they have very little congressional activity up until the election because all the House has to campaign. So I think that the Democrats have run out the clock. The Republicans feel pressure to do something, and I think they're going to talk Trump in to extending this unemployment benefit, which will essentially kill 10 million jobs.
How will it kill 10 million jobs, Sam?
Well, the fact of the matter is what people will do is they'll have an incentive to stay home and not go back to work. And what you have to do is give them an incentive to go back to work. Because right now, they can sit at home and make more money than they would if they were going back to work. And you've got to take a look. This deals with people who are in hospitality industry, hotels, restaurants, gyms, all of those kind of things. And those are generally not high-paying jobs. So the incentive for unemployment, where you essentially give them an additional $600 a week to stay home, they don't have the incentive to go back to work. Thus, you're going to have 10 million people stay on the sidelines rather than get off the sidelines to go back to work. And so, it affects consumption because workers buy. And that's the problem. And right now they're not working, and we don't see any if this was working as an incentive to consume, we wouldn't see any change in the consumption numbers, would we? But we're not. And so this is the factor that I think is, you have to remember that in the GDP, 85% of the GDP is driven by consumption and investment. And so if you don't consume, you're not going to drive the economy.
I know what you're saying, Sam, and what you're saying is the basic Republican position, basic Republican belief. I get that. But we got an election coming up here in November. So if Trump doesn't sign the bill, then we'll see headlines all over the state and in the country that the evil Trump has forced workers to make a choice, go back to work and possibly die, or not work at all and starve to death. This is a no-win situation the president is in, and it's a political situation that not every ideology fits.
Well, I would disagree on some point, because that part of the Republican bill is limited liability, is to reduce liability for companies so that they cannot be sued by workers who say they got sick on the job, okay, or by customers who say they got sick on the job. Because every person that gets a flu, gets a cold, can run to a lawyer, and then nuisance lawsuits stack up like cordwood at your door, and then that's the issue. But this is also, you talk about this is a real reason that Walmart and Sam's Club and Costco and Menards and all of these companies have asked people to wear masks in their stores is because of the liability issue.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with the spread of the disease. They're just going, and because we know that the masks really don't work for that. It's just pro forma. So that's the whole issue here, is to avoid these massive amount of lawsuits that every ambulance chasing lawyer in America will be out there going after.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and our guest is Sam Clovis. Of course, Sam has an impressive resume. He's been an academic. He's been a pilot. He's been a talk radio host. His career really took a downturn there when he became a radio talk show host. But, I'm glad he's on the air with us. Are you working right now, Sam, or are you pretty much retired?
Well, I would like to work, but the problem is the kind of things I want to do. Every time I turn around, all somebody has to do is Google my name, and the first 2,000 hits that come up, 90% are negative. So it's hard for me to get work when people don't want to take the chance of hiring someone who's a lightning rod. First off, I'm a Trump guy. 2, I'm a real businessman. 3, I'm a veteran. I've done it, and yes, you're right. When I got into talk radio, that lured me into politics, and my life has never been the same. So there you go.
But do you have any regrets about that?
Not one.
Yeah, I was going to say. I don't know why there'd be a reluctance to hire you for anything unless you're trying to get a job in academia. Those people don't allow anybody in unless they think and talk a certain way. And, of course, that's really what we want, isn't it? People all thinking the same way and talking the same way. I mean, did you...
Well, I would say that you're absolutely right, and because what happens is you tend to hire people that are like you, and when all of you are liberals, you're going to hire liberal people. And so or I should say progressives. Liberal is horribly misapplied there. But because liberal actually means you have liberal thoughts, and these guys don't. So the factors that we run into here are that we have all of these diversity statements out there that these colleges have, and they identify every possible diversity except intellectual diversity.
That's right.
And they refuse to put that in there because then they would be forced to do that. We are descending into tribalism already, and all they're doing is making it worse by highlighting the differences in people. When you came to America, the goal was unity, and that was the unity of all ethnicities, all backgrounds, all religions, coming on and taking on the American culture, not the Italian-American culture or the African-American culture, the American culture. And by denying assimilation or by forcing us to remain in these tribes, we are not ever going to achieve what America was founded on, and that is that we have unalienable rights among those life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And those means that we are all equal under the law, and then that our differences is what will allow us to achieve or not achieve according to those skills. Well, that is the great travesty that is going on right now.
I've always said multicultural education and forcing diversity, which in diversity, come on, ladies and gentlemen, it's quotas.
Quotas.
It's just a better name, like affirmative action. Nobody liked the word quotas. Nobody liked the idea, so they made a couple of changes. Affirmative action sounds a lot better than quota. Diversity sounds a lot better than quota, but that's exactly what it is. And it's having the same disastrous effect on the population. Yep. I mean, they have seized in Seattle now IEDs. I mean, something the terrorists used in the Middle East. They're finding them in Seattle, and soon they'll be used somewhere. Are these peaceful protesters? No, they're
it's terrorists.
They're terrorists,
and they ought to be called that. And the sooner the president identifies BLM and Antifa as domestic terror organizations, the same way that they would any other, white supremacist group, the better off we are as a country, because again, we are all equal under the law.
Well,
and the reason they won't do it is because they will be branded as racist.
Exactly.
So we have a suppression of speech, and we have the suppression of the law, which means the law is being unequally applied, and to whose end? And to the end of terrorists. And we've got to get over this. And this is one of the things that's killing us as a nation.
Sam Clovis is our guest. Sam, can you call back in 5 or 6 minutes?
I can indeed.
Thank you, sir. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
You ever wondered how the brain works? What makes us tick? Join me, Greg Woods, every Wednesday morning for all the latest news on the brain, on aging, and the science behind it all. It's The Mind Boggles, every Wednesday morning at 8:30 on AM 1400 KVFD.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated, price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-721-4880. That's 800-721-4880. 800-721-4880. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with highs around 83. Northeasterly winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Lows around 59. Tonight, partly cloudy. Partly cloudy again tomorrow, 84. Mid-80s Saturday with a chance for scattered storms. Much cooler Sunday with highs in the upper 70s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 82.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn up a quarter penny at $3.15 3/4. December up a half a cent at $3.26 3/4. March unchanged at $3.38 1/4. May unchanged at $3.45 3/4. August soybeans up a quarter penny at $8.91 3/4. September up 2 1/4 at $8.86 3/4. November up 3 at $8.88 1/4. January up 2 1/4 at $8.93 3/4. September wheat closed down 3 1/4 cents at $5.29 1/2. Soybean meal up $2.90 a ton at $2.89.80. August live cattle up 27 cents at $101.72. October up 70 at $106.75. August feeders up 105 at $143.02. September up 185 at $144.42. August lean hogs down 165 at $51.42. October down 150 at $48.32. I'm Dwayne Murley.
What you drink is just as important as what you eat. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Many drinks have no nutrients and contain added sugars. Others might provide nutrients, but also too much fat and too many calories. What's the number one drink? Water. It doesn't have any nutrients, but it's essential to healthy functioning. Sugary sodas, energy drinks, sports drinks, and other sweet drinks provide more calories than needed because of the added sugar. Adults and children consume about 400 calories a day as beverages. Instead, drink water with your meals or in between meals or both. Make drinking water, low-fat or fat-free milk, or 100% juice an easy option for kids. Have ready-to-go containers filled with water in the refrigerator. But remember to limit 100% fruit juices a day because they have a lot of natural sugar, which is still sugar. When you choose milk or milk alternatives, pick low-fat or fat-free. If it's soy milk, make sure it's fortified with vitamins and minerals that are in milk: calcium, vitamin D, and potassium. None of this means you can't ever enjoy an indulgent beverage. Just cut back and drink them occasionally. Pick smaller cans, cups, or glasses to drink them from instead of large or supersized options. It's a good idea to take water with you in a clean, reusable water bottle and stay hydrated throughout your day. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
This is Brad Keselowski, driver number 2, Discount Tire Ford Mustang. Racing fans know that a quick pit stop to check the tires can give me the winning edge. The same is true for your car. Proper tire tread helps keep traction on the road in everyday driving. To check your tread, simply insert a penny, Lincoln's head first, into your tire grooves. If you can see all of Honest Abe's head, it's time to get your tires checked by a professional.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company helps you customize your home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Unlike things you paid for you didn't need, like that much-needed 125-inch flat-screen TV.
It's hurting my eyes a lot.
For your 100-square-foot bedroom.
My neck isn't so much stiff as it's completely stuck.
With Liberty Mutual, get customized home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Uh-oh, I'm seeing color splotches.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, I'm the Doctor of Truth. And if I had a contender for the title, that would be Sam Clovis, who joins us now. Sam, of course, has been well known in our state for quite some time. He served in the Trump administration. Again, a very long and impressive resume that very few people on earth have won anything like Sam Clovis, and he joins us again. So I want to know when this horror out in Portland is going to end. I kind of made an allusion that in Seattle, they have discovered actual IEDs like Wounded My Son over in Iraq. My son has a Purple Heart thanks to an IED. So now our little peaceful protesters in the Northwest have access to them. Isn't that wonderful? And apparently the police are, I'm sure according to them, it's because they're being provoked. You know, they're being provoked. It's not their fault.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that the idea is that you have to remember the ideology, and it is an ideology that drives people, and particularly liberal or the progressives who run these cities. All of these cities are run by progressives. Portland, Seattle, Atlanta, Philadelphia, New York City, Chicago, Milwaukee, all of these cities that are being devastated by these riots are run by Democrats. And that is something that everybody says, well, how in the world can you, I do anyway, how can you blame the President of the United States for the total ineptitude and blindness of the people that you elected, and then those people selected these police chiefs and others who are there that are continuing to advance this Marxist agenda. And that's what it is. This is Marxism pure and simple. And this is, you go and look at the Marxist playbook, and I'm writing about it in my newsletter. You'll have it this weekend, Mike, for your pleasurable reading. But I'm writing about this very notion that this goes back to 1848. There is no mystery here what is going on. And it is played out in Italy, in Russia, in China, in Vietnam, and in Cambodia. And these are the things that happen when you allow Marxist or some version thereof to progress, because that Marxist ideology is what presses people to allow the confiscation of personal property. And then once you have all the personal property now is owned by the state, then the state owns the means of production, and there is nothing safe. And then you end up with centralized control of the economy, and no one then is allowed to produce anything for themselves except at a subsistence level. That is where this is heading, because it becomes total equitable, egalitarian distribution, and it is each according to need and each according to skill. So those are the things that go with all of that. This is tried and true and has been there for almost 200 years.
I noticed that athletes, professional athletes in our country are stepping up, and they're talking more about police and the way they behave in African American communities. They're not talking much of this socialism, and there's a reason for that. If there was ever a place where those with the most talent advanced and made millions of dollars, it's professional sports. LeBron James was the child of a 15-year-old single mother, and he was raised by relatives for the most part. He is not university educated. He started playing professional ball when he was 18 or 19 years old. He's one of the wealthier men, I'm sure, in the country, and he's a great role model. But the fact of the matter is, professional athletes, African American professional athletes, dominate the three major sports: basketball, baseball, and football. And they do it in part because of the awful legacy of slavery. Only the strongest were able to survive the trip across the Atlantic in the slave ships. That's a terrible thought, but it is the truth. And so African Americans now dominate these leagues. Nobody's talking about diversity. Nobody's talking about, well, can we have a quota for other ethnic backgrounds? Nobody wants to see a 5'6" Asian person or white person play professional ball. They don't. The professional sports is the ultimate capitalist game. It just is. And whenever I hear all this nonsense coming from the socialists, and they're mainly white people in Portland and Seattle, I think.
Right. Right.
I know that the African Americans are saying, you don't speak for me. Didn't you tell me last week that most of the people leading these protests are white women in their 30s or 40s? Where did you get that information?
Well, they're white women in their 20s and 30s. I mean, this is the thing, and I just saw a news article here just before I came on. I was trying to do a little bit of prep for this, and what I was seeing there is that two 20-something women, one a doctor of physical therapy and the other a licensed social worker, were the two people who attacked a progressive college professor in Madison, Wisconsin, and beat him into unconsciousness. And those are two white women that did that had not reached the age of 30. And so you tell me what's going on here. And this guy is a progressive, and they beat him.
Well, he must have been an older man.
Gave him a concussion and put him in a hospital.
He must have been
He was a white man, and he was taking pictures of the activities there of them trying to pull down two statues. One statue was of an abolitionist, and the other was of a feminist leader. And they were trying to pull. It means they have no sense of history. It's just that statues are iconic of a past that they do not want. They want you to forget, and that is what this is about.
They don't seem to understand either. I mean, do they really understand? Even educated at that level, are they really educated women? I mean, who would do that? You would suspect that of an uneducated person, like the people who defaced the statue of Frederick Douglass because he was a racist. The statue of Frederick Douglass in Massachusetts was defaced, and one of the slogans on Frederick Douglass's statue was racist.
Well, but it's because they're ignorant of history, and that what they are doing is anything that represents the past, the history of this country, anything needs to be taken down because they have to erase history. Because Frederick Douglass shows their absolute hypocrisy in the fact of what they're doing. And see, the reason they do that is not because of Frederick Douglass. They do it to intimidate. They do it to scare people. They do it to suppress speech. And frankly, right now, they're doing it to suppress votes. And to force, this is the whole thing, is to force us into a mail-in ballot. This is the other thing, Mike, and you've got me revved up here this afternoon. The other thing here is that the that can't go to school because of coronavirus. See, we can't open stores because of coronavirus. We can't send workers back to work because of coronavirus. But by God, we can vote on November 3rd because of coronavirus and entity of the Democrat platform and what they're trying to do. And I only hope that people are smart enough to start waking up to this. Any movement in that direction, and it depresses me no end.
Well, that's because they've got Joe Biden to study. Anyway, I want to bring this up because I'm thinking of these people in the carnage and the craziness of these people, and then I'm thinking Joe Biden's going to be their leader. I don't think so. That old sleazy used car salesman, not a chance.
With you 100%, and I think that this is one of the great tragedies of this current era. You know, and I still go back and I remind myself in the dark of the evening when I'm trying to go to sleep and unwind, that I try to calm myself down by saying, and this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that this country can survive this passing. I really don't. I mean, now the good news is that if Biden were to get elected, and even if he took the two houses, that there would be only 2 years of the utter chaos and destruction that would follow. And that we would have to wait 2 years, and we would likely win back the House and the Senate, and we would put a stop to the last 2 years. And I guarantee you that we would elect Republicans for at least the next cycle or two. And by that time, I'm going to be so old and senile, I won't give a crap about anything.
I know the feeling, Sam. I know it. I had an X-ray on Monday, and they told me I had arthritis in both hips and a bone spur somewhere. I didn't want to hear much more of that. So,
yeah.
Thank you for the information. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Anyway, Sam Clovis has been our guest. Any closing thoughts, Sam?
No, I just want everybody to take heart and just remember that it doesn't do us any good to turn our backs to the wind. We have to face the wind. And airplanes take off quicker and faster and go higher when they fly into the wind. So that's the way I've always looked at life. So I've always turned into the wind and never away from it. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, that's the way to go, buddy. Hey, thanks, Sam. We'll talk with you next Thursday. And again, thank you for understanding that we had to talk Fort Dodge Sports today.
The best in this tournament.
Thank you, sir. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort.
President Trump is fighting back, but he needs honest media. That's why millions are tuned. Weeknight, you can watch Greg Kelly rip the media's hypocrisy. Plus, see Sean Spicer, Michelle Malkin, Mike Huckabee, Herman Cain, and more. Everyone is talking about Newsmax TV. Find it on DirecTV, Xfinity, Dish, Spectrum, Cox, Optimum, Fios, Uverse, Suddenlink, Mediacom, WOW, and more. Or just check your cable guide. Newsmax TV is now America's fastest-growing cable news channel. Watch it today.
During this challenging and unprecedented time, Gunderson's is here to serve with expert guidance and understanding to each family and their unique needs. We provide options for funeral, cremation, memorial, virtual, and webcast services, either presently or at a later date. We understand that grief does not wait. We are trained to help you walk this path to bring comfort and support. Every life deserves to be recognized and celebrated, whether it be together or afar.
All right, it's 3:59. The news is coming up. Then we'll be talking with Charles Clayton, Matt Bemrick, and Roger Porter. So stick around for that. Go Dodgers! This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Back to school remains in doubt. On Lisa Brady, Fox News. When and how school begins depends on where you are.
Nationwide, others are starting with hybrid models, while a growing number are going completely virtual, especially in states experiencing rising Los Angeles, Miami-Dade, and Houston school districts. All in all, just between those three, that impacts about 2.8 million students across this country.
Fox's Casey Stiegel in Texas, where some parents are pushing back against delayed starts to strip funding for districts going remote. Joe Biden dipping into the American Federation of Teachers.
National testing and tracing rules. You get your nurses the protective gear they need. Provide an adequate supply of masks to every school in America.
While President Trump was visiting the Red Cross headquarters, highlighting the call for plasma donations from COVID survivors.
We've taken bold actions to give Americans access to plasma therapies. The patients with life-threatening infections beginning in March.
No bipartisan breakthroughs on Capitol Hill for a new coronavirus relief package or a temporary extension of extra jobless benefits that expire tomorrow as the pandemic pummels the economy. A record plunge in activity in the second quarter, down nearly 33%. And first-time claims for unemployment benefits rising for a second week and staying over 1 million. But strong earnings reports just out for tech giants. Facebook beating estimates for revenue, and monthly active users also more than expected, 2.7 billion. Another quarantine staple, Amazon, with a blowout report over analysts' estimates. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 Talk USA. Simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
Progressive Motorcycle presents Road Wisdom from the Motor.
Half man, half motorcycle.
If you missed a turn, take it to get back to the turn you missed.
Use your turn signal.
Progressive Motorcycle also presents Roadside Assistance. Progressive Motorcycle, for those who were born to ride. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Not so fast for the federal plan to pull out of Portland, Oregon, where a federal courthouse has been a target for violent demonstrators.
Oregon's governor says federal law enforcement is leaving Portland and state police will protect the federal courthouse.
They are moved. Mayor Ted Wheeler said as far as he knows, city police will not be involved, just state police. He was asked when the nightly protests might end.
When people see that those of us in positions taking concrete steps towards enacting those demands.
Portland police, who used to engage the protesters, issue press releases recounting what happens each night and often conclude with how they do not disperse crowds or use gas or make any arrests. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
The president tweeting earlier today that federal officers won't leave until there's safety. He's found dead in a suburban Ohio home west of Cleveland. Police say 3 children, all siblings, are among the dead. Sources telling Fox 8 it's being investigated as a possible murder-suicide. The bodies were found in decades since Coke sold alcohol in the U.S. back by a hot market.
Coca-Cola is making its way into the boozy beverages market with an alcoholic version of its popular Topo Chico sparkling water. The beverage giant will offer its new hard seltzer in select cities in Latin America later this year and then launch in the U.S. in 2021. Both sparkling water and hard seltzer are fast-growing categories for the beverage industry. The Wall Street Journal reports that Americans spent $3 billion on hard seltzer in U.S. retail stores since last July, which is up over 240% from a year earlier.
Fox's Hillary Barsky, Elisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
From Jones. A Fort Dodge man has died from injuries he suffered in an accident last week. On July 22nd, 63-year-old Rick Collum was riding a bicycle on Kenyon Road here in Fort Dodge when he was in a collision with a car driven by 34-year-old Fort Dodge resident Joseph Johnson. Collum was flown to a hospital in Des Moines to be treated for his critical injuries. He passed away on Tuesday, according to the Iowa State Patrol. The crash is still being investigated. From Radio Iowa, Republicans in the U.S. Senate are forwarding another incarnation of the CARES Act to the House, which Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says is designed to address continuing problems with the public health crisis. Grassley chairs the Senate Finance Committee and says he was directly involved in several key elements of the COVID-19 pandemic relief legislation.
That includes updated tax relief to help get folks back to work and help businesses safely open, updates in our approach to the unemployment benefits to provide another round of economic impact payments.
It's another round of $1,200 payments for most Americans with an additional $500 for each dependent. The measure would also lift restrictions on federal assistance that's already been sent to state and local governments so it can be used to fill revenue shortfalls.
In other words, originally it was just supposed to be used to fight the virus, but if states have money left over, we'll give them flexibility on spending it.
He says the package contains a new credit for expenses, like for personal protective equipment and cleaning, which is needed to maintain a safe workplace for employees and customers. Grassley, a Republican, says the proposal sets a responsible path forward to address the problems our country is facing due to COVID-19.
We put forth a bill. We got to negotiate with the House. I hope my Democrat colleagues will work with us in good faith. They better be open to compromise and keep the best interests of the American people in mind.
The package would help nursing home patients and workers, Grassley says, in addition to freezing Medicare premiums at 2020 levels to head off a predicted spike next year. In sports, Fort Dodge softball is headed to the state championship.
Swung on, hit toward left, Words is under it, that should do it, and that'll do it. Dodgers win 5-3, and they punched that ticket, and for the first time in program history, somebody has uttered the phrase, the Dodgers will play for the state championship.
Dodgers a winner 5-3. Ankeny Centennial would get the first run of the game in the top ad answer when TK Doster would go deep.
Swung on, driven toward right center gap, and that ball is gone. TK Doster, touch them all. You just went yard. 2-run blast, and the Dodgers answer the call.
2-run blast by Doster in the first. Her 8th of the season. Dodgers would then take a 2-1 lead. Ankeny Centennial would answer with 1 in the third to tie up by scoring 1 in the third. They would go up 3-2. Centennial would get 1 in the top half of the fifth and tie the game at 3. Then Martina Lowry would come to the plate for the Dodgers at the bottom half of the fifth.
Swung on, hit toward left center. It's out of here, a home run. A big-time blast. Touch them all, Martina Lowry. You just went yard.
The Dodgers would add an insurance run in the sixth when Martina Lowry would get her second hit of the game, an RBI single, to make the game 5-3. Pitching and defense would carry them the rest of the way. Jalen Adams the win in the sub 3 runs, scattering 9 hits and striking out 3. Adams would set Ankeny in the top half of the seventh to win the game. Dodgers are in the state championship for the first time in program history. A 4:50 pregame and a 5 p.m. first pitch. They'll take on number 2 Cedar Rapids Kennedy for the Big Gold Trophy. Hear every pitch of the state championship game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with highs around 83. Northeasterly winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Lows around 59. Tonight, partly cloudy. Partly cloudy again tomorrow, 84. Mid-80s Saturday with a chance for scattered storms. Much cooler Sunday with highs in the upper 70s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
President Trump is fighting back, but he needs tuning into Newsmax TV. Every weeknight, you can watch Greg Kelly rip the media's hypocrisy. Plus, see Sean Spicer, Michelle Malkin, Mike Huckabee, Herman Cain, and more. Everyone is talking about Newsmax TV. Find it on DirecTV, Xfinity, Fios, Uverse, Suddenlink, Mediacom, WOW, and more. Or just check your America's fastest-growing cable news channel. Watch it today.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. I'm really making radio great again. Here, I have quite the murderer's row for guests here today. No. Come on, man. It's Charles Clayton over there. He used to play basketball, I hear. Charles Clayton. What are you doing over there, Charles?
Hanging out.
What are you doing hanging out with these white people?
Well, you know, they said they'd hang out with me as long as we could put you in your place.
Well, that's what Bemrick likes to do. He likes to come over here and put me in my place.
I try.
All right, Matt Bemrick is here, the mayor. How are you? You have your arms crossed and you're looking at me with annoyance. Now, what kind of weight is that to come over here? What kind of attitude is that to come over here with?
I have a great attitude.
You have a great attitude?
I always have a good attitude. Less than 1 minute in, you call them white people.
Yeah, well,
Maybe
yeah.
They should be defensive.
Well, why? Aren't they white people? Are you guys something else? You look like white people. You look like white guys.
Hey, have you read your own T-shirt today?
What's it say?
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
That's right.
That's all I'm going to say.
So I never have a plan. I never have a plan. All right. I guess I got to question you guys. So, Matt, are you a white guy or not?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm Irish.
Irish
French,
Catholic.
Irish and French.
French.
Yeah.
What do you think about that French stuff, Charles? Anyway, you guys have been working on some things.
We've been working on a bunch of stuff.
All right. So, would it be...
probably more.
Grab the mic. Hard.
I feel like I'm supposed to sing. It came off
the microphone came right off in his hand.
Yeah.
You folks are watching on YouTube saw that whole thing.
They're getting some fun.
All right.
Okay. So probably about a year or so, right around a year ago, we had some gun violence going on in the community. And Charles and Roger and myself and others were having conversations about curbing gun violence, knowing that we had an immediate issue, but knowing that we had somewhat of a historical pattern of issues where young people were committing crimes, gun crimes, violent crimes, and we wanted to talk about breaking that mold. So we got together in a room, Dr. Ulrich, Roger, David Feerick, Charles, myself, and just started talking about how could we break that cycle. And it was really, I think, from that conversation, a realization came that we needed to identify kids that were at risk, or kids that had a propensity to going towards in a direction in their life that was going to take them down that path.
Okay.
And we wanted to figure out a way to curb that. So Charles, and jump in here, guys, if you want to jump in there. Charles had the idea of starting a specific program that would help create a better opportunity for a kid that might be getting in a little bit of trouble at a younger age, to try to put them on a different path. Try to tell them that there's something better to do than these things that a lot of young people end up doing. Whether it be sports, it could be music, it could be anything. It could be science. What passion can you have besides doing things that are going to get you in trouble?
Right. So
we put together a program, and this thing became much larger than just those people in that room. And Roger, help me out with everybody that was in that group.
There was us, myself, Charles, you, David, Ryan Reisner was in there. Who else do we have, Charles?
Dr. Ulrich.
Dr. Ulrich was in there.
That'd be the initial group.
Yeah, and see, basically it started before we even had that conversation, because Charles started this pilot program in the school system, and we decided, how can we work this and expand it to the street, because then you're just getting all the kids that are referred in the school. How do you give this kid a second chance without getting that kid in the system, with a record? So we came up with we fine-tuned some rules for the street, and anybody that kid first time simple misdemeanor type crime, disorderly conduct, where you get a charge. And and I'm not trying to downplay juvenile court, because they're very busy too, but as well as I do, you get a disorderly conduct and they get set in the system, and there's not a whole lot that's really done other than the fact that you got a charge on you now. And in lieu of doing that, we got involved with Charles in his program, and situations like that, you would refer them to his program, and they would go through a little bit more structure, provide some mentorship, provide some, what's your interest, what give you some different interests that take you away from that type of going down the path that Mayor Bemrick had talked
I know
about.
you've done a lot of outreach, Roger, and I commend you on that. Sincerely.
Thank you.
I don't know where Bemrick's been in this whole thing, but apparently he's letting me know for the first
Just
time.
hanging out.
Just hanging out. Does this program have a name?
So it's our youth diversion program.
All right.
So with the school system, if a kid is going to possibly get kicked out of school for the day, get a detention, or maybe even just falling through the cracks, they can get referred to APHIS. If that same kid maybe was going to get a school resource officer called on them, before we call the school resource officer, maybe we call APHIS. Now we took that out to the streets and said, if a kid gets picked up for simple theft, stole a bike, a simple fight with another kid, any simple misdemeanors that they may have gotten arrested, put in a cop car, handcuffs on, go before a judge, involve a juvenile court, can we divert that initial trauma and say, can we get these kids just on a better path by using community resources?
Well, whatever I could do to help, I would. I mean, if that includes going down to sweep the floor, I would do that. So you're going to expect me there at 7 tomorrow to do that? Is that in?
Not at 7, but we can put you to work. That's for sure.
I made him go to work at 7.
Yeah,
here's
it's a little early for me.
And I commend you guys, all of you, for being in here and for thinking of these things. And this is always my great fear. And I'm not making an accusation, Matt. You sometimes get defensive when I'm talking. But
just Matt.
Just Matt. But I just don't. My great fear is that we'll come up with all these great ideas, and then we'll really not follow up. Wasn't there a couple of years ago? There was a group of people in relationship to some incident in town. Right? We actually had a meeting, I believe, down at APHIS. You were there. Remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember that. They started a Facebook group. I don't remember the
started
exact
a Facebook.
name.
Yeah, but it was something that there was a sense of urgency to it. We were going to do something about it. I think we had 2 meetings, and that was it.
Well, and that's one reason why we want to let people know, and we're coming on today to say we're doing things when it comes to cultural, racial, social justice issues in Fort Dodge, we're not just making it known to everyone or inviting the whole community to the table, because I think with like the event that you're saying that happened a few years ago, get everybody in a room, sometimes you don't get solutions, you just get more complaints. And a real good intentioned project can never get off the ground because people don't want to do anything to complain. So we've been behind the scenes having some of those programs, the one with the school and with the police officers on the street. They're both already gone. We've already got this up and moving and it's running. We just want to let the community know that people are working across all lines and departments trying to do.
It's natural for people to want to step forward when they hear something, a shooting or some tragedy of some sort, and to give a little money or give a little time, and then that's it. But I really think in this last year especially, because George Floyd's going to be a memory next year at this time. We'll have, George Floyd, yeah, I remember him.
Well,
yeah, I remember what happened.
There's an awful lot of people that I don't think want that memory to go away, and it really, that's a motivator to get people to the table to have conversation. But really, it's about, we were having these kind of conversations, like I say, last year. I think the count program and put money into this program with the APHIS and the school district and Fort Dodge PD last fall. I mean, we're working on these kind of things all the time. Now, since we've, since the murder of George Floyd, we've had some peaceful protest. The country, of a simple peaceful protest can get violent or turn a different direction quickly. And I've had some people in recent weeks make comments to me that, there was those protests and there was some conversations, but really you guys haven't done anything. And that's when I reached out to Charles, Roger, and said, hey, let's get some people together in a room and have a conversation with some local media representatives. So we met with a messenger earlier today. We're on your show now. We actually actively have going on